guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this
is Pat O'Sullivan.
So I had a very interesting, fun time this weekend. I was supposed to go to Point Pleasant again.
Okay.
But Sunday it was really gross outside, so I did not get to go. And I had a very hard Sunday because I was really hungover. And
what'd you get into? So let's quit talking about Sunday. Let's start talking about Saturday real quick.
So
what happened
Saturday, there? Which, most people here know Anne, but I'll explain Anne. Anne is she is my documentary co-host, but she is also Anne's like my lifestyle dom. Like she's my dom, but it's not sexual. It can be sexual, but it's not. Usually it's just more of like, I don't know, like life choices and things like that. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, so not just Anne, the place that I film my show at, the Secret Chamber House of Oddities and Artwork. It's where I film my show in her basement. She's got a full dungeon. She is like a big person in like the art community here in Dayton, Ohio. Well, just in Ohio, okay. Really. And she had her 3-year anniversary, and the shop is located it's in Fairborn, Ohio on Main Street. And it has a very famous Halloween store. Like almost the whole strip is the Halloween store because they have like
Spirit of Halloween
shops. No, it's called Foy's.
Okay.
Oh, that was a joke.
I've seen that. There's one of those by us too.
Oh yeah, a Foy's?
No, a Spirit of Halloween. Anyway, I'm sorry. Like forget it. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Foy's out there? I'm like, wow, they expanded. But they should. I mean, gosh, if he hasn't yet, the guy should. He's got like there's specifically a store that's just for haunted houses, and there's a store for just regular decorations. There's adult costumes, kids costumes, a candy store, so on and so forth. And it's like this whole strip in the middle of the city. And her shop is also there on the strip. Now there's other things too there. It's cool. Anyway, so every year they in October, they have this big Halloween festival, and it usually goes on all weekend. And then she also will hire different performers and artists and things to come. And she has her anniversary for her shop opening because this year's been 3 years. Well, COVID canceled the annual Halloween festival. So, but Cherish, the owner of the shop, decided to go ahead. First, it was like a secret party that she was going to have. And she only had so many people coming. And then it turned into she was able to get approval from the city to have the party as long as she had it outside. And so she was able to have it. So she had a bunch of performers and things, different shows at different times. The shop was open. It was great. So Anne comes over, and this event starts early. It started at 4. And so I start drinking already, and but before I get there, because I can't drink while I'm there. So we start drinking and we go down there, and we had a great time. They had there's a dance group that do like pole dancing and stuff like that, and it was cool. And there's fire dancers, and I've got pictures. I'll post them eventually. But it was fun. It was really fun to see people, especially because this has been like my first event since all of this has happened. I haven't really been able to be out at like a public event with all these different artists that I have made social media friends with, but have never actually met. So it was really fun to, finally see these people and interact with them. And, of course I just fit right in, and it was beautiful and it was great. So it was a good time. That went on until about 9:00, at which point me and Anne were like, okay, let's go, buy more alcohol and let's go get really drunk. So we went back to my house and we got really drunk and we stayed up. I didn't go to bed till like 5.
What were you drinking?
I was drinking rum and Coke. That's my drink of choice. So I'll buy a big old bottle of rum but I probably drank like a whole pint to myself at least.
Nice.
And everybody else was drinking beer. We invited, a couple people over, and it wasn't a huge event or anything. It was only like 4 or 5 of us, but yeah, so this guy that I've been talking to, I don't think he listens to the podcast. I hope he doesn't listen to the podcast. So
what are you talking about? We need every listener possible. Him and everyone he knows should be listening to the podcast.
Just tell him you were on the podcast this week. We'll see how this goes. I'm honest with everybody, so I don't have things to hide. But he came and hung out at the event with us and then came back to the house or whatever. And um, so, I've been talking to this guy, adding him to my harem, I guess. I've decided I guess is that what it is when you have a group of a group of guys instead of girls? Is it still a harem?
Yeah, or I don't know what.
I thought there was a word for it, but when I tried to look it up, there didn't seem to be one. And I'm like, oh. Anyway, so he's a new inductee. He's and so he comes over and another guy comes over that I don't really consider a boyfriend, but I have slept with, and I think he was expecting to be slept with again, but my life's so complicated. But I already had, somebody there.
Just the phrasing of that. Expected to be slept with again.
Well, he just,
That's funny.
he's very hopeful, and I don't mind sleeping with him. It's just he's not my priority. And
right, there's a time and a place.
Yeah, and so
you don't want White Castle every night, but there's sometimes you want White Castle.
Right. And I mean, we hang out and stuff. We're cuddle buddies, but we've only slept together the one time because he's got feelings, and I don't want to hurt his feelings. I do have a heart, believe it or not. So anyway, so my guy fucking passes out. He gets so drunk he passes out. So I'm not getting laid. But the other guy's there still at my house, and it gets really late. We watched like 3 movies back to back. It was crazy. And then anyway, so I'm falling asleep. I'm like, everybody leave, and the one guy is like going to leave, and he's like, I'll leave unless you want me to stay. And I'm like, the other guy's fucking asleep in my bed right now. Like, where are you staying? With him in the bed? I mean, what? What? And so I kick him out. And anyway, I expect the other guy to leave. I don't like people to stay the night with me. I don't like that. I like my bed to myself.
Yeah, that's kind of I mean, not to interrupt, but that's kind of a dick on the table move. You know what I mean? And I know girls that used to do that when I used to live with a bunch of guys, and we would have parties all the time. And inevitably, towards the end of the night, this one girl would kind of, they'd sneak off and they'd pass out in your room.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sorry, dude. There have been times when I fucking took a bucket of water to that bitch. You'd be like, you get the fuck out of here. Like, I know exactly what you're doing. You're not clever. You need to get the fuck out of here. I did not choose you.
Well,
and you do not get to win by default because you fell asleep early. You should have taken a fucking nap. You knew what was going on tonight.
I mean, okay, so hold on. So this dude legitimately, like, at some point, okay, so I've been
or they put their purse in your room. That's even the worst. I hate that too, because don't think I won't lock the door and then go through it. You're driving home without a license. I don't give a shit.
I don't mind. Like, okay, somebody's drunk. You're like, no, don't leave. You know what I mean? Don't get in your car and fucking drive off. You can stay here. Like, that's not the problem. I think this guy legitimately, like, he was on the floor petting my cats, and he fell asleep petting the cat. So, like, I think he had to go sleep. I don't blame him there. And everybody was still there. It's just
go sleep in the bathtub.
I should have pointed him to my daughter's room. Like, you go sleep. You get.
Oh no. That's
a big no.
Well, what if he gets sick or something, and then you got to deal with that?
Well, that's true too. Then he'd be cleaning that shit up the next day.
The only thing worse than pissing in your bed is pissing in a 9-year-old's bed, and I'm talking from personal experience.
That's fair. Yeah. But yeah. So anyway, so he leaves, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna sleep on the couch, and so I chose to sleep on the couch, and I woke up.
Good for you.
Oh yeah, I did, and I woke up the next day. Well, because I didn't want to disrupt him. But the poor guy's got a whole life of issues going on right now. He's got a lot of problems. I don't think he sleeps well right now in his life, and so I'm like, oh, let him have a big comfy bed for the night. It'll be fine. Slept on the couch and woke up. I woke up at like 11. It was really late. I'm on first shift right now with my kid in school, so that was late for me. And he was still there, and I expected him not to be there, but he was still there, which is fine. I've been co-writing this article about horror movies with somebody else, so it gave me a chance to like sit and like watch the movie and not be disruptive to him. But he like slept until like 1 o'clock. And
Jesus.
I'm like, guy, I had to at least have some type of chance to go do something today. But he wakes up, we hang out for a little bit. Meanwhile, the other guy that wanted to stay had left his phone at my house. And when he got home, he had messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, I left my phone. Let me know when I could pick it up. I'm like, cool. He's like, well, let me know when dude leaves and I'll come pick up my phone. I'm like, I know. I waited, and I'm like, well, I
How
didn't.
about if I have dude drop it off at your house
Right, I'm
on
gonna have
his
him drop
way
it off.
out?
Right, because like I've still got fucking yesterday's makeup all over my face. I'm a mess. I don't really wanna. I haven't eaten anything yet that Sunday. I wanna
Yeah.
whatever. So guy leaves. I let other guy know. Come over, pick up your phone. He comes over, fucking hangs out for 3 hours. I'm like, dude, I'm not even fucking dressed for the day. It's 4 o'clock. Like, go home. Like, I just want to be left alone at this point. So it was just and by that point, by the time he left, my day was already chalked up to being, nothing. So, but whatever. The day before was worth it. It just sucks being old when you party too hard because you can't recover, as quickly. Me, fucking, even 5 years ago, I would have been like up and at 'em and already taken a shower and gotten moving and been dressed for the day and ready to do whatever, but I just didn't have it in me. So,
Well, if there's anything to look forward to, it's when you are actually old, like I am.
oh
Stuff
no.
like that doesn't even happen anymore. Like,
Don't tell me that. I thought I'd have
yeah,
something.
I'm 40. Like my weekend was completely different, but like I remember weekends like that from my youth. I think
Yeah.
you need to just be direct with people and like throw them the fuck out. And like I've had chicks spend the night and you wake up banging pots together. You got to go. You got to
Yeah.
go and just keep repeating it. And then, but you got to go. But hold on, don't you want to get? You got to go,
Yeah.
and
Well,
then just get them the fuck out of there,
I'm so
and then just shut the
nice.
door. And
I'm like, it's not that I don't want to hang out with you. It's just that like I live.
well, no, it's exactly what it is. You don't want to hang out with the dude, and you knew he was passive aggressively poking around for 3 hours because he expected like a nip slip or
And
something.
he
You know what
was
I
even
mean?
like saying that, like he's hanging out and he's like, man, I'm so disappointed that dude fucking fell asleep last night and took up the
Because we could
bed.
have hooked up last night. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
it's like, what makes you think that I would have slept with you? Just because
Entitlement.
I slept with you the one time, so now you think it's constant?
But
Anyway.
you know what though, I gotta just to kind of hang on that for a second. That is one of the more difficult things to navigate when you're talking about a low impact relationship. Is we did it once. I mean, this is something that I go through. You go through in all different types of relationships where, like, just because you did it once doesn't mean that you can do it whenever you want.
Right.
Or just because you're in it, like, let's say you were in a relationship. I mean, you can be married to someone for 30 years, and if you grab their tit and they say no, then that fucking ends that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's just all there is to it. But I think that it's kind of for people that are more used to conventional relationships when they get into like a friends with benefits situation or just like a kind of like we did it just to see what it was like and I'm glad we scratched that itch and maybe we'll do it again but it's not going to be an all the time thing. Some people can't handle that level of uncertainty and it makes them very cagey.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and they don't know like what's the protocol. Like, does this mean that we can do it again because we did it once, and so can we do it again now? And you're like, no. And then it's like, well, do you not like me? It's like, no, I like you, but I just don't feel like doing it now. Like,
Right.
okay.
I don't want to.
And that's a
Yeah.
hard thing. That's a hard thing for some people to wrap their head around, and especially if they don't have a lot of other options.
Yeah.
Because then it's like they're placing their soul like their emotional bill on you to
Well,
pay. And you're
right.
like, I ain't trying to pay this. I'm not responsible for this shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like the biggest issue I have with that particular person is that for one, his best friend and the guy he works with every single day, somebody he's known for like 20 years, um, is my boyfriend Shane. And and he, always talks about how Shane is very Shane's kind of cocky, and I'll tell you what Shane is. Shane doesn't understand rejection. Shane doesn't have fear of rejection. He doesn't have to. He's beautiful, and so he's never really had to navigate that, and so he doesn't understand it. Whereas like this guy was married his high school sweetheart, divorced because of things that were really pretty much out of his control, and hasn't really been in a relationship since, and that was a couple years ago. And so the guy has a lot to learn, relationship wise. And it's just, I'm not that person to navigate that shit with. Like, I'm just the casual lay. And, I feel like he wants it to not, just be that. And therefore.
but look at the dude's fucking MO. Look at his fucking resume. He married his high school sweetheart. No, he doesn't know what a casual lay is.
Right, exactly. So
He
I'm
married
like,
the first chick that came across his radar. Like,
well, he's got another girl in the group, and they kind of have a thing going on, and she likes him a lot more, you know, emotionally. Like I like the guy. He's one of my best friends. He really is. But it's just as far as like a relationship, I can't give him what he needs, and so he needs to try to find that somewhere else. And you know, until, but that's what it comes down to. You know, I should probably just sit down. We've never had a talk about any of this. I should probably just talk to him and be like, listen.
Yeah, because it sounds like he's equating your, you know, your expansive palate with rejection, and when you're not in the mood for him, but it also sounds like there's a little bit of the nice guys finish last entitlement shit that he needs to grow the fuck out of, because that, I mean, that follows immature guys around a lot
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
And
maybe.
I can't stand that more than anything else, because that's just, you need to grow the fuck up. Like,
I can't say that about him. He's a pretty woke individual. He just wants to be loved, and he wants to love, and he's got so much love to give. I'm just not the person. That's it.
right. And I guess my whole thing is that, like, I don't think you misrepresent yourself. So either he's not paying attention to the persona that you're putting forth, or he thinks he can change the situation. And both of those tend to be stinking thinking. But
Right.
what do
Yeah.
I know? I've never met any of these people.
Right.
They've never been in my kitchen. I don't know who the fuck these people are. I could be completely wrong about everything, but
I,
I'm probably not.
I appreciate the advice. Yeah, that's my life, guys. It sounds so glamorous. It sounds like it's all sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and it is. So
It is. I was gonna say.
it very much is. On a side note, I want to put this out there. Yes, guys, I saw that there was a sighting of Mothman at the O'Hare Airport in Chicago. I did see that. I just want to say that I've had people even like going at each other's throats. Like somebody shared it to like my Facebook page, and they were like, "I just thought I'd share this with you," and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then like one of my other friends, and these are like my real life friends, was like, "Oh, I shared that with you yesterday, and you didn't say anything." And it's like, right, because you gotta understand, I'm getting the same article multiple times a day.
Jesus, now I feel bad
Which
about
is
it.
fine. You know,
Yeah.
that's fine. I appreciate the leads. I really, really, really do. But you know, I have no entitlement to have to respond to any of you and, you know, confirm and give you a pat on the back. You know, that's and I was worried at first, and I was talking to somebody else, and I was like, you know, this has been going on for like a week now. I knew as soon as the article came out, I knew about it, you know, and it's been going on for so long, and I'm like, you know, how do I nicely say like thank you, but I've seen this without like hurting anybody's feelings? And I was like, well, I could just do a general thank you. But then like when I just did a general thank you, I still got in trouble. So
Right.
but you know, here is my overall thank you, guys. I really do appreciate it. But you know, I do see it. I don't want this to deter anybody from sending me other things, because you know, you never know. I do a lot of research on a lot of different topics. You know, I do this podcast every week, so I'm researching that. If something falls into my radar, I'm doing that. You guys don't even really know about the sky dragons that I have going on right now. And
Sky Dragon.
yeah,
Dios Dio.
the sky dragons, it's a whole
The
nother.
fuck are these sky dragons coming out of left field now?
Oh my fucking god, the sky. It's just there's been mysterious noises in the sky going on
Oh,
everywhere.
that's been going on forever. I mean, they were trumpets. They called them trumpets a couple years ago.
Yeah, well,
Is it
no,
is it significantly different than that?
it is. Yeah, I mean, it is different. It's still mysterious noises in the sky, and I'm trying to see if like even though the noises sound differently, if they're coming from the same source. So I've been kind of taking that a little more seriously, and then people have been sending me. There was like an incident in Texas. I call them sky dragons, even though I guess all dragons would be in the sky. Because in Texas there was this weird noise going on, and they had determined that the noise was, they say, was coming from this old pipe at this place, but I'm not convinced because I'm not going to get into full detail. But a guy went on Facebook Live and, you know, was recording while this noise was happening, and kind of went outside and was like trying to investigate and find it. And during the time that this was going on, there was also like a thunderstorm going on. And every time like the lightning would go off, you could see these shapes in the clouds, and they kind of looked like fucking dragons. They kind of look like dinosaurs of some sort. It was crazy. So, you know, I've been kind of looking into that anyway. You know, so I do a lot of research on many different topics, and it's a lot, especially because the thing that I'm trying to prove is that none of these are so different from the Mothman. They're all actually kind of the same thing, and so you never know when you're going to send me something that I don't know about. But yes, I did see the Mothman at the O'Hare Airport. He's been there for a very long time, but this was a good sighting because it was a
Yeah, what I thought was neat was that we actually brought up the O'Hare Mothman sightings last week when we were doing the Chicago earthquake prophecy episode, because part of the Chicago earthquake prophecy mentions O'Hare Airport and the
talks about the
destruction of
O'Hare Airport. Yeah.
yeah, destruction of O'Hare Airport, and I didn't know that there was so many Mothman sightings around O'Hare, and you mentioned that last week, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then a couple days later, this story broke. I mean, the article that I sent you is dated October 19th, so which
Yeah.
is yesterday. So I don't know if this was making the rounds before then.
It was, yeah,
Okay.
it was Tobias that came out with the article originally on the Singular Fortean Society.
Okay.
And because that's his thing. He does the Lake Michigan Mothman stuff. And so he broke that story last week, and it might have been why I had mentioned it at the O'Hare Airport, because I had seen
Okay.
it,
Okay.
because everybody sends it to me 50 times a day. So and then
Oh,
and
here's his original article. Let me hold on. I'm pulling it up right now. October 13th, which would have been
Tuesday.
wow, which would have a
Yeah.
week ago today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I start seeing that, and so everybody, which is, like I said, it's fine. Everybody sends it, and then now other people are picking it up. I don't know why this one has suddenly gone viral. It's old news. It really kind of is, because he's been at the O'Hare Airport for multiple occasions. He's that's one of the most significant places where he's been at since 2016 in Chicago.
well, just off the top of my head, I think the first thing that I would ask is there any correlation between these sightings and the sightings of the jetpack dude in California? Have you been seeing stories about that?
Yes. So yes, I did want to talk about the jetpack guy real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is curious. Now he's been seen twice, and the last one was, where was it, in L.A.? Is that right?
The last one that I saw, yeah, but I remember seeing it. He was spotted in
A
other
month ago.
places too. But at that height, like, how do you know it's a jetpack?
So well, that's true. How do you know? Well, and that was the question I posed was, are we sure that this is a jetpack guy? Because, and I looked it up. I was looking up I'm not a jetpack expert or anything. I don't, I don't know shit about them really. But from my understanding is that they can go that high. They can, it's possible, but they can't really like go that high and sustain that high. They can go up to about 6,000. What is that? 6,000 feet? Is that what it is in the air?
Yeah, the conventional mechanic, the jetpacks that we know about. Now, granted, who knows what the fuck else is out there? They have very limited range, and that's why they've existed. They've been around for a while,
Right.
but it's just there's no practical application to them. You wouldn't use them in combat.
Yeah.
It's too easy for things to go sideways, and you burn off your fucking legs.
Well, and not even just all that. The thing is that because we have such limited technology with them, it would be very, very clear if we were having any type of testing, whether it be from a university or, just private funding or anything. If we were having testing of these things, we would definitely let people know, or we wouldn't fly them in like unauthorized, aerospace. So, the fact that, this was up as high as it was for as long as it was, and in an area where it really shouldn't have been in, because it can cause an accident. That's very sus to me. Is that what the kids are saying now? Sus, the new word. I learned it from my 8-year-old. So but yeah, it is very weird. So that was my first question, was that, are we sure this is some guy in a jetpack? How do we know it's not just, flying humanoids are a thing, just
Right.
people flying in the air without wings or anything at all to sustain them. So, or, was it wings? Did they see something on its back? We need to know these details, but unfortunately right now, because it's under investigation from the FBI, I don't think we're going to get those details yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because all we have is just that it was a jetpack. Why do you think it was a jetpack? What made you, but that is curious. Now even the O'Hare Airport sighting, that happened, I think, in September. Even it wasn't even
Correct. Yeah.
It wasn't even that recent. So yeah, it's but it could be, again, the first jetpack sighting happened in September, I believe. So But that was interesting. That was some interesting news of the week. So I thought that was pretty cool. But anyway, so I guess I don't know if we can go ahead and get into this week's topic.
Sure.
It's not really. I don't think I have any more updates. So it's my favorite time of year. It's spooky season. Actually, that's kind of a lie. It's surprising, but I'm a Christmas person myself. Everybody always assumes Halloween's my favorite holiday because, goth girl and all, but no, it's Christmas. Um,
I'm sure it's a little like daunting. Like it's a lot of pressure to produce and perform and come up with something. And
it can be only because, I mean, this is me every day of the year, so it's like,
right,
it's not that much different. I mean, my house isn't super spooky on the regular, believe it or not. I try to at least present in some type of normal way. Lately I have not been, but but whatever, so I do the decorating and I do the festivities, but like, yeah, even like coming up with doing like the witch photo shoot, it's like it kind of seems like it's for Halloween, but then again, like I could have done that any day of the week because
right,
I'm a witch, so
yeah.
you know but anyway, so we've kind of been trying to do some spookier topics, and we thought that it would be a good time to get into the famous Dogman. So I'm pretty excited. What did you know about the Dogman before you started researching it for the episode?
Absolutely nothing.
You'd never
You
heard
know,
of it?
I had heard of the Beast of Bray Road
Okay,
because that is based out of Wisconsin.
it's kind of close-ish to you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's southern Wisconsin. It's basically like an hour and a half from here,
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
right outside Lake Geneva, right between Lake Geneva and Kenosha. And I think it's even Racine County, which I have all three of those areas I know very well for various different reasons. But yeah, so the Beast of Bray Road I had heard about, um, and but I wasn't familiar with the term Dogman.
Okay,
And I was even less familiar with the distinction between dogmen and werewolves.
okay.
Right. And a great quote that I found online is the difference is dogmen exist and werewolves do not. Like,
Okay.
if you Google like what's the difference between dogmen and werewolves, that comes up, and I thought that was pretty clever.
That is, well,
So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, because werewolves, that's ridiculous. But I think that with werewolves, it's suggested that there's some type of transformation that
Right.
a human
From
being undergoes, it
human
turns into a werewolf,
to
where a
being.
dog man is just kind of this human wolf hybrid.
It's always a dog man.
Yeah, on the reg.
So the Dogman is most of the time described as being anywhere between 4 feet tall to 8 feet tall.
Okay.
And what distinguishes it from like a regular, sighting of some type of just canine that we don't know about is that it walks on two legs.
Hmm.
Sometimes the story is that it has a dog head and a human body. Sometimes it's that it is all dog, but has these just kind of humanoid creatures in the face. Sometimes it's just the dog walking on two legs. So there are a couple of different variances there. In Michigan, they believed for a long time that the dog man was kind of, definitely more supernatural, and that it only appeared in years that ended with 7. So
Interesting.
yeah, so every, not necessarily, I guess every 10 years, it shows up on the 7th year. And so by their account, then they would have had Dogman, sightings running rampant in 2017 supposedly. Now that is kind of an older legend. We have Dogman here. We have actually the North American Dogman Association. Is that the name of the association? They are based, I'm sorry, the North American Dogman Project is based in Ohio. And actually, in my area specifically, they're making a documentary about the Germantown Dogman. And Germantown, Ohio, is a place that is kind of near and dear to my heart, somewhere that I frequented a lot because it has these really creepy roads on it. I've told the story on the show before about Dead Man's Road, and we're pretty sure we saw some guy getting buried on it one day, and it's just a creepy fucking area and whatever. And but there's supposedly Dogman sightings in that area as well. They have supposed like the audio clips of the Dogman and things like that. guess I should say supposed, alleged is is the word. But it is mostly, yet again, it's mostly a Midwestern thing.
Yeah, it's pretty widespread. I mean, there's Michigan has a very strong mythology. I didn't know about Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wisconsin is the one that I'm more familiar with.
Wisconsin's probably the most
Um,
popular. The Beast of Bray Road is probably the most popular encounter. Our legends here say that in the 1970s, the town was terrorized by this, dogman like creature, even to the point to where supposedly somebody was beat to death with a 2x4 by the creature. I don't know.
that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yes, and that in
Like
1970.
a professional wrestler,
You know
like
what? I guess so. So what people had ended up, it was in Defiance, Ohio, is where these sightings, and they were taking place. I mean, for like a string of events, and then one of those events, somebody, I don't know if they got beat to death or they just got beat up, but like, why would the dog man use a 2x4?
right. That would defeat the whole purpose of being half dog.
A big
You wouldn't have
right,
claws.
and dog man. So, I don't know, but the consensus was what I believe the local paper came up with was that it was most likely somebody in a suit just going around beating people up with wood, I guess. I don't, I don't
Right.
know. I have no idea. But yeah, that's, basically and then of course we've had sightings, as recent as I think 2016 was our most recent sighting. What I could see anyway, who knows? There's different ways to report these types of things. And so you have to kind of look at different websites and there's different databases but the most recent I saw in Ohio was 2016, and I think it was in Bellbrook, Ohio, that's like 5 minutes away from me. So I almost technically live in Bellbrook. So yeah, it's kind of a personal thing. Of course, I've never seen one.
So now, not to open a whole nother can of worms, but do you make any connection between the dogmen and skinwalkers?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. So I don't, I'll be honest, I really don't know much about skinwalkers.
Oh, okay.
I don't. It's one of those things that is kind of a lot. But from my understanding, they like shapeshift and stuff, don't they?
Right. Well, it's human beings that turn into animals, and
Oh,
wolves. That's kind of like where the werewolf thing comes
like an
from. But there,
animorph?
yeah, but there could be other applications too. And
Okay.
the Skinwalker Ranch, which is in Utah, that's a big UFOs hotspot because there's tons of stuff that goes on there. But
Different stuff, right? Tons of different
right,
stuff, yeah.
but the werewolf sightings are kind of the most prevalent, and it's kind of how the area got its name, and then other stuff too. So then they look at like, oh, this is an anomalous area in general, and there's everything from UFO sightings to skinwalkers, and what's the correlation between the two, and it's just considered like a magical place.
Yeah,
Um,
and well, I
wi-
think that's why I haven't gotten into it is because it is so much that
yeah,
I know I'll need to, and actually I would like to do an episode on it, but I think it would definitely be a two-parter because there's
yo, to do Skinwalker, yeah, because
yeah,
just the UFO stuff versus the ghost stuff, and there's people that live there, and there's then the government did like we know that they did some investigations there,
right,
but how much and what they found, that's two completely different things.
right.
Um, but just to kind of go back to the Dogman
Skinwalker thing.
Skinwalker correlation in general, is that wolves. If you look at wolves are kind of one of those animals that are like dragons, where they pop up like all over the place, right? And sometimes they're seen as good, sometimes they're seen as bad, they're evil, but they're always seen as something,
Okay,
right? They're always prevalent in mythology,
right. I agree.
and they can be especially like humanoid shape changing
Mm-hmm.
varieties,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and where am I going with this? I don't know. Just hop in and say something, please.
Okay, so anyway, so I mean that could definitely that could definitely be a possibility. Skinwalkers are very interesting because it's kind of like they could kind of account for almost any high strangeness incident that we talk about in general, and it's kind of like then you go back to like what's the difference between like a skinwalker and a wendigo. There's not much. And are these the same, or kind of goes back to, are these all the same creature and we're just all of them, and we're just calling them by different names. I don't know. I mean, I could definitely see where if we had some type of dogman, biologically speaking, um, we could have gigantic dogs walking around that have evolved to be on 2 feet, but it wouldn't make much sense in nature, I guess, for them to be bipedal because they're slower that way.
Right. Well, that was another explanation that I found. Is I think they're called Amaroks, Amaroks, which are gigantic wolves from Inuit mythology,
Okay.
previously thought to be extinct. But especially because you're talking about the northern regions of the United States, like northern U.S./Canada, where a lot of these things are spotted. That maybe they're just kind of like wolves that we thought were species of wolves that we previously thought were extinct, kind of like the living dinosaur thing, except not
Right.
necessarily dinosaurs. Um, that that because there have been big, just giant wolves in the past, dire wolves,
Yeah.
and that goes all the way across to Europe. But I think what makes Dogman a little bit different than that, you also have to account for like just inaccurate reporting,
Right.
right? Like, is it that it's a giant wolf, or is it that it's legitimately bipedal? Because if it's bipedal, then we're talking about something completely different,
Right.
right?
It's a different,
But if
yes.
we're talking about a 3 times larger than normal animal,
Okay.
that doesn't necessarily suggest a supernatural explanation. That
So,
that kind of stuff occurs in nature all the time.
yeah, true. Well, what about the possibility of it just being a very a very emaciated bear?
Right. That I think that what they think is that it has mange. That's
Right.
the disorder that they attribute to that.
Yep. With the hair, and
Um,
mange is where they have the hair loss. It's like a parasite infection that affects the
right.
skin. Yeah.
Which I don't know about enough about bears to fucking weigh in on that one. But like I think once again, like I know bears can get up on their 2 legs, and bears can get up and fucking ride a ball around, but
Yeah.
that's different. I feel like that's different. Like there's a distinction there.
Well, you think so? I mean, do you think if you were out in the middle of the night, even driving down the road or whatever, and you saw a bear standing up on its hind legs, it's skinny, it's not thriving very well, it's young, and it's got missing patches of hair, and it turned around and looked at you. It's got that long snout. I mean, you don't think you could mistake a bear for being a dog man?
No, you're
No.
probably right.
I mean,
You
oh,
know,
okay. Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just, it's a possible explanation. We don't have, especially with it being in Ohio, we have bears in Ohio, but we don't have like bears to the point to where like it's scary for us to be in the woods. Like we don't have to have that kind of protection, but it's possible for us to have bears. So it's, it's one of those things. So it's like, so if I saw a bear in Ohio, I would be, we've had a sightings of a bobcat in my neighborhood. And to me, that's wild. I've never seen one, in
wow.
person. And I had no idea that we even had fucking bobcats, and apparently we do. And I live in the suburbs. And so, it's weird. So if I saw a bear, I would definitely be, confused. Um, but human nature is to identify with something that you are already familiar with. So if you saw a dog man and you actually saw a legitimate dog man, more often than not, your mind is going to tell you that you saw a bear because you can explain that. So the human condition kind of leads me to believe that there's got to be some type of credibility to this somewhere.
I'm almost more inclined to go in the opposite direction and say that this could probably be one of the more easily explainable, not hoaxes, but just uh, misperceptions, I guess.
Okay.
Because you're right about the bear thing,
Just a type of
and
hysteria, maybe,
yeah, and I think that like the werewolf mythology is strong, and you can like, oh, but this is Dogman, it's different. Like, okay,
Yeah.
granted. So the shape shifting thing, let's put that over to the side for a second. But wolves are one of those animals that the reason every culture uses wolves in their mythology is because every culture had to deal with wolves.
Yeah, they're
It's
everywhere,
like,
right?
why does I did another podcast once. Way before you, before well, you were probably still in high school. And I interviewed an archaeologist, and it was an honest to God archaeologist. And what she did was, she worked for like Verizon or Sprint or something, and would travel around, and before they installed cell phone towers in an area, she would do like a site survey to see if there was any burial mounds or anything like that,
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
So it was still an archaeologist, but not like, Fortune and Glory, Dr. Jones in
Sure.
fucking Peru and shit.
The boring
So
the boring stuff of the job that nobody wants to do.
yeah, like how the job actually exists
Right.
in modern days. You work for AT&T. And I had her on the show, and it was, we were just having like a conversation, doing an interview, and I kind of asked her about, well, about the Great Flood, and is the Great Flood real? Because you have every culture has their own telling of it, so
Yeah,
it must have happened. And
right.
her response was, no, the reason that every culture has a Great Flood myth is because every early culture sprouted up around water,
Okay.
because that's how civilizations worked. You could use it to travel, you could use it to fish, you needed to drink the shit. It was like, it was a culture wouldn't survive unless it had access to water. So you had all these cultures that built early towns around water, and what happens? It rains a whole bunch, there's flash floods, there's tsunamis, all kinds of crazy shit happens, right? So yes, at some point, every civilization that sprouted up next to a body of water had a time when that body of water rose or flooded into where they lived, and that makes perfect sense. And it doesn't mean that they're all reporting the same event. It means that all those civilizations kind of conducted themselves the same way and dealt with the same problems. Now, I don't necessarily think that that means that there wasn't some kind of unilateral great flood or something in the past. Maybe there was, but I understand that logic, and that's something that I try to apply to other things, right?
Okay.
So when we look at like the Dogman stuff, and we say, well, every civilization does hold wolves and kind of, you know,
They
uh,
have their own
uh,
version of the dog
yeah.
man. Yeah.
Well, it's because every civilization had to fucking deal with wolves because they were pack hunters. They were a legitimate threat to early man, and they were smart. And they were smart, you know what I mean? Like they're intelligent creatures. So if you're a human being, and you have chickens in your outside your hut, and the wolves kind of hopped over the fence and snuck in the chicken coop and ate the shit, you're gonna be like, oh, it was so smart, how to get into the barn, oh, it must be like a half wolf half man, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many
Okay.
stupid fucking animals that don't know how to do that kind of shit,
Right.
but we're talking about a wolf here. So a wolf is of higher intelligence, and they're more threatening, and they're
Yeah.
pack hunters and all this stuff. So it would make sense that human beings, and from, if you look at mythology, that's exactly what we did. It would make sense that we would impart so much significance on these creatures,
Right.
you know. And once that happens, once that groundwork has been laid, then that kind of mythology evolves over time, the same way every other aspect of our culture does,
It
you
could.
know.
It definitely could. I mean, it is hard though because I know somebody personally that is a very credible person who has seen a dog man, and his bitch ass was supposed to be on the show today, but he's not. And
So can you paraphrase their story? Because I would totally, as much as I just said all of that, I would
yes,
love nothing more than to have somebody on and be like, no, dude, I saw one. And I'd be like, fucking tell me about it.
and eventually I'm going to get him on the show to talk about it himself. But he's
Can you
kind
give the
of
Reader's Digest version, or like
what's
just
that?
Reader's Digest version? Like what? Like it's kind of like what happened? Like where was he? Like what happened or what?
So I don't really okay, so he's told this story a million times, but I'll be honest, I'm a bad friend and I haven't actually like sat down and listened to any of his interviews or anything. But I know that he was in the woods somewhere, he saw this thing, it saw him, and they both parted ways and left. It was about, I think he said it was about 6 foot, it was covered in fur, it was all dog, no humanoid features, it was just one of the bipedal dog, large dogs walking, and he didn't he felt very uneasy, so it was kind of supernatural, and he walked away. So when he's like talking about the story, and again, that's just the cliff notes version. The first thing that pops into my head are the hellhounds, and I kind of want to touch on that for a minute, and I'm not going to talk about it
Okay.
too much, and that's kind of more of that's a bigger thing in my witchy community than anything. So a lot of people see these black dogs, and they call them hellhounds. And sometimes, depending on what you follow and what you believe in, they can be good or they can be bad. Some people see them as like familiars or spirit guides. Some take them as some type of negative energy. But that is something that just culturally, that's in a bunch of cultures. It's like these black dogs with these glowing red eyes that are not of this earth. And so it's like, could it be that? Could that be it's not biological at all, but it's some type of spiritual entity that people are seeing, and it's just depending on what they need. But I don't know. I mean, again, somebody fucking, I can't, my biggest gripe with that is that I can't get over the fact that a dog man went out and beat somebody up with a 2x4.
Well, yeah, that's one bullshit story. That sounds like you got drunk and fucked up your neighbor and then blamed it on a dog man.
And then blamed it on the dog man. I just, when it comes to that, but whenever there are dogmen sightings, there are, there's other high strangeness that happens, like cattle mutilation and pets being, taken and mutilated and things like that. So, I mean, but then again,
I would argue that when you talk about cattle mutilation, like there is a difference between like cattle mutilation in the UFO sense, where like surgical,
yeah,
there's like surgical scarring and removal of organ, versus like the fucking circle of life,
right?
like
Something came
one
into
animal
your
ate a cow.
field,
like I'm sure
right.
that shit happens. Yeah,
right. I mean,
that happens. Actually, that happens around here a lot where I live, and I live right outside of Chicago, and you don't leave if you have small dogs, you do not leave them out overnight. You don't let them out too much. I don't like letting my dog out past sundown because he got sprayed by a skunk once.
Yes, you're right. We've got skunks.
You like to deal with that shit at night.
Coyotes, foxes. It's not very safe to leave your dog out at night.
And if I left my dog out overnight and I woke up the next morning and he was mauled to death, I wouldn't necessarily assume
go to Dogman.
Yeah, a supernatural culprit. I would think just a bigger predator in the area killed him. And the hellhounds thing is real interesting because that is something that I think I just
never heard of the black dog?
No. I have. Oh my God, that's a great.
Oh my God,
we'll take it one further if you want to talk about mythology. Have you ever seen the movie Black Dog?
No, I was going to ask you if you've ever seen the movie Bones.
Yes, of course. What?
I was going to ask you if you've ever seen the movie Bones with fucking Snoop Dogg in it.
No. But let me talk about Black Dog.
I've never seen Black Dog,
Black Dog is with Patrick Swayze.
Okay.
And Patrick Swayze and Meatloaf.
Oh, okay.
And they're truck drivers. It's a truck driver movie.
Okay.
In the vein of Over the Top. And this came out in 1998. And it tells the story of a trucker and ex-con who is manipulated into transporting illegal arms. The film co-stars popular American singers Randy Travis and Meatloaf. I think Meatloaf is the bad guy. It was produced by Rafaela De Laurentiis, who I'm sure you know Dino De Laurentiis. No. Oh, he's a huge film producer.
Okay.
Produced like tons of fucking shit. Army of Darkness is just one of them, but like tons of stuff. And Charles S. Dutton's in it. So
is it a comedy or is it?
No, it's like an action. It's like a real shitty hillbilly action movie.
Oh, okay.
Patrick Swayze's a truck driver, but there's the mythos of the black dog. And basically, if you've been driving for too long as a truck driver, you'll see the black dog right before you wreck your truck.
Oh,
right?
That's a thing though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So like the whole thing,
based off of that.
So Patrick Swayze is a truck driver who's just been released from jail for vehicular manslaughter for accidentally hitting and killing a motorist and his passenger on the side of the road during a trip in which he experienced a black dog hallucination brought on by exhaustion. So this is like, it's kind of like an omen for truck drivers, and it's supposed to be like, and I mean, I guess I should ask truck drivers because I do know a couple, but like it's supposed to be like truck driver lore is like, watch out for the black dog when you're driving and you see
Yeah.
the black dog, it means something bad's about to happen. And I just know that like in the climax of the movie, Meatloaf is the bad guy, and right before uh Meatloaf, like there's like a battle on fucking trucks or whatever, and right before Meatloaf like crashes his truck and dies, like he sees the black dog and then boom, he dies. um
I love
I
it.
don't,
All right.
yeah, so I guess Black Dog is like this episode's Mr. Belvedere rant, but like
don't start on fucking Mr. Belvedere again.
but it's seriously, Black Dog is 89 minutes long.
Check it out. Is it worth checking out?
Yes, it's definitely worth checking out. It is definitely worth checking out.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was talking about the Snoop Dogg movie Bones, and
So let me look that up.
this
What's
guy
that about?
dies. Snoop Dogg dies, and like somebody, I think somebody killed him. He's like a drug dealer, and it's like he lives in like the ghetto, and but then he like comes back to life to like get his revenge on the people that have wronged him, and sometimes he takes the form of a dog, or maybe he had to take the form of a dog before he could become Snoop Dogg.
Oh,
It was weird. It wasn't.
this sounds
I
good.
don't remember it being a bad movie. I haven't seen it. I'll be honest, I haven't seen it since it came out.
So it was directed by Ernest Dickerson, who is Spike Lee cinematographer.
Okay.
Stars Snoop Dogg,
Yeah.
Pam Grier,
Yeah.
Clifton Powell. New Line Cinema, 2001, 96 minutes.
It's got some really cool stuff.
Came out October 26th, 2001. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we were all, our heads were in other places right now.
Right. Yes.
But
yeah. Yeah. It's been a long time since maybe I'll check it out again because of this conversation. But yeah, like I just remember, like I said, like this dog, like, I don't know, like puking maggots all over somebody or something.
oh shit, this sounds like something I'll watch with my kid. This sounds like a good one.
It was a horror movie. Yeah. I mean, it was, but Snoop Dogg Bones, if you haven't watched it, I mean, fuck it, watch it. I don't know if it's good. I can't remember.
Can we go for the trifecta of dog horror movie recommendations? I'd have to say that and this isn't necessarily supernatural, it's more sci-fi, but it's still it's the apex of the killer dog genre. Man's Best Friend.
I haven't seen that one.
Holy shit.
Is that a good one?
That is it's beyond, it's legitimately a fucking good movie.
Okay.
1993. Ali Sheedy's in it, Lance Hendrickson. If you ever see the movie Friday,
yeah,
it's the Craig's dad is watching it.
Oh yeah. He's
dog's gonna that dog's gonna bite your ass, Mr. Postman.
Yeah.
So it's like a dog that is genetically altered to like fight like alongside cops or something, right?
Oh, okay.
And it escapes, and Ali Sheedy, who's like the weird girl from the Breakfast Club, she adopts it, and they're like best friends. But she's got like, she like a guy tries to mug her, and the dog like eats him, and she's got an abusive boyfriend who's a piece of shit, and like it pisses acid. It's like, but it's 1993. It's 87 minutes long, so it's over before it starts. But it's super short. It's super entertaining, and it's like you don't see movies. It's New Line Cinema, and it's like back when like they would make kind of like mid-budget horror movies, genre movies. You know what I mean? Where that wasn't a complete waste of money. Where it's like, yeah, we'll spend $7 million on a movie about a killer dog, and we'll put Lance Hendrickson in it and whatever. And it's totally worth checking out. Halloween recommendations, but I will watch Bones this weekend for sure.
Yeah, watch Bones and watch Man's Best Friend, and then after Halloween, go back and watch Black Dog.
And Cujo, we'll throw that out there too.
Cujo, you know what? Cujo's the classic. We all know that one, so give it a watch. Cujo for me is way too long. I just
Cujo. Yeah, well, don't read. Have you ever read the book before?
No.
The kid dies in the book. It's a terrible book for parents to read. It's
if you're a parent.
Don't do it, because that kid dies 2/3 of the way through, and it's fucking from dehydration too, which is like a shitty way to see your kid go.
Wow,
I know. It's Stephen King. It's like cokehead Stephen King. It's like good Stephen King.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
back to Dogman.
Okay.
So
well, Hellhounds. We were doing Hellhounds.
Hellhounds. Yes. Yeah, they're like they're just again, they're a big like I see a lot of people in my community reference them a lot,
Yeah,
especially
that's
when they're
kind of what I
doing
wanted to come back to is
shadow
that
work.
like yeah, so that's something that actually um that pops up in your travels or whatever, however you want to phrase
In my travels in my sex, drugs, and rock and roll life.
it. And your left-handed path.
Yeah, right. It is. Yeah, it's they're just the term hellhound in general it's such a general thing that again it's one of those things that like every culture has some type of something with this, and but the descriptions are basically the same. They're typically like black shadowy figures with these glowing red eyes and whatever. In my community, a lot of people, like I said, they will see them whenever they are getting into like shadow work, and shadow work is when you basically like face your demons and like the things that you don't like about yourself, or things that like your old soul needs to has never confronted and needs to work on from generations and generations of you traveling around. And but they'll usually like they'll see them typically, and they'll lead them somewhere, or help them kind of figure out what's going on. I've never had an experience like that. Personally, I've had kind of I have kind of these weird experiences with animals a lot, but never with a supernatural animal, so I
Well,
don't.
that's what kind of dovetailing it back to the skinwalker stuff. That's kind of where that comes from is that human beings taking on animal form, or there being animals taking like their familiars. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and it's interesting to think that the werewolves, like if you come across a werewolf, it would seem to be kind of a random event, but when you tie it into the hellhound mythology, it makes it seem like it's a more personal experience.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that creature kind of appeared for you, or that it's there for you specific, or you did something to draw them out.
Right. Well, and
You
so
know?
that's kind of what I mean. So, when I talk about my friend with the credible sighting, um, the fact that he had a very, he had real emotions involved, instead of just, it wasn't just, fear, the basic fear that you're going to get from seeing something that you
Oh,
can't
sure. Yeah.
explain. It was more than that. And so, that's the only reason why, because I'm generally pretty, I'll be honest, I'm pretty dismissive about Dogman, because I just
Oh,
biologically, it doesn't make any sense to me.
okay.
Now, I believe in like giant dogs or undiscovered species of canine that we just don't know about. Maybe particularly large coyotes or wolves, or like a coyote wolf hybrid, or whatever. But I've never really thought that a dog man, it just doesn't. Bigfoot makes sense. You know what I mean? Bigfoot would be a direct link to us. It makes sense why it walks on two legs. It makes sense. A dog does not. We can't breed with dogs. We can't, so for it to
Not
have
for
any
lack of
type of
trying.
right. What is this, Pat, West Virginia? Um, that's probably plenty of dog man down. There is actually Point Pleasant. They'll tell you all about it. They have a dog man down there too. So it's like,
Really?
yes, yeah, that they do. It's another guy. We were there at the festival last year. We interviewed another YouTuber. His name is Bigfoot Bob, and he has his Bigfoot Bob channel, and then he has another. It's called the Spectral Wolf Pack. Supposedly, he's seen a dog man down there. He says, and in Point Pleasant. But yeah, they've got a dog man down there too. So I don't know. I guess in my mind and my study, and kind of what I believe in now, this has pretty much been, this probably been the first time that I've ever, kind of really questioned it again, because me a year ago is different from me now, because I've learned so much,
Mm.
that me a year ago, totally dismissive of the idea. Me now, well, then I'm like, well, of course there's a fucking dog man in Point Pleasant, and then, like I said, when we talk about having some type of supernatural event, like, feelings involved, and then it's something I've run into otherwise, it's like, well, maybe there is something to this without it doesn't have to be biological. In our view of what biological would be, it doesn't have to be third dimensional, I guess, is what I mean.
Mhm. So you're more inclined to believe in hellhounds than dogmen?
I'm more inclined to believe that they would be the same thing if they existed at all. If either
Oh,
existed
you think they're
at
the
all.
same thing?
Yeah, I would think that they'd be the same thing. Yeah, they would just
Look,
appear in a
looking,
different way.
yeah, looking across the this to bring it back to Skinwalkers just for a second.
Yeah.
Something that always makes my bullshit detector go off is this article about skinwalkers. And it says skinwalkers are described as being mostly animalistic physically, even when they are in human form. And they are reportedly near impossible to kill except with a bullet or knife dipped in white ash. Well, let me tell you something. A bullet or a knife are going to kill mostly anything.
Just
You know,
period. By
it's like
itself.
it's something that always like struck me about the vampires is like you can only kill them with a stake through the heart. Like you kill anything with a stake through the
Right.
heart. You know, like
Everything
what
will
the
die.
fuck? Like how do you know if it's overkill at that point? Like you could say the same thing about grandmas. Grandmas can only be killed with a stake through the heart. If you put a stake through a grandma's heart, then she'll die. Well, can we back it up a little bit first and can we try more conventional methods first and then work our way up through the stake through the heart? It's like the fact that they're like you can kill them with a bullet and knife but it has to be dipped in white ash. Like I guess we might as well dot all the i's and
Well,
cross
like
all the
who
t's.
figured
And
that out? Like what? Like it's just. I mean, like
they had one tied to a tree and just like was dip it in brown
experimented.
ash.
Right.
Yeah.
And brown ash didn't work, so it had to be white ash. I mean, what happened? How did you get to that point to discover that that was how they die?
Right. It's like motherfucker, I'm Irish. I understand like fucking, overblown dramatic bullshit storytelling better than anybody. And that's an impressive little detail, but yeah, I think if we just stick with the bolt and the knife, we'll probably fuck it up too. That's like when not to get into it, but I was in the vicinity of some dogman sightings recently. We've been working on this show for a couple weeks, so there was an opportunity for me to be in the vicinity of one of the more recent sightings, and I chose to go into the situation armed. And I was thinking to myself, like, well, don't I need silver bullets? And it's like, no, I think hollow points will probably be fine.
At the
Like,
very least, it gives you time to run away. I mean,
right. Like, I'll at least dismember it. Like, I don't know if I necessarily need, although it did make me think, like, I need to figure out how to get silver bullets because it's ridiculous that I would have a gun and just not have silver bullets because, of course,
that's true.
like, I'm not
Aesthetic is
saying I
so
need,
important when it comes to killing.
right. Like, I'm not saying I need a ton of them, but at least, a magazine or two full. But, yeah, it's like I don't think I need silver bullets to go hunting the fucking dog, man. I think hollow points will probably take care of it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, right. And then it's like, if it's not something that's like physical anyway, then really doesn't fucking matter. So you're just screwed. I don't know. Like I said, I think that if it is something that exists, and it would have to be kind of this, it would have to be the same thing as like these hellhounds. I think that it would present itself in a different way to jar you more. I think if it is some type of spiritual journey, like if it did end up presenting to you as like a half humanoid, half dog walking on two legs, that would be so that you would recognize, oh shit, I need to pay attention. And make you question other things, whereas if you just see, a weird black dog in the woods somewhere, then you're more keen to be like, unless you're paying attention to stuff like that. You just be like, oh, it's just some weird black dog in the woods. But again, I don't know. I don't feel like there's a big history around it. I could only really find the Dogman and how it's described as far back as like the 1880s. It's pretty new. And I just don't know if, again, if there's anything to that. But then again, we have other things, like we have the what is it, the Crosswick monster here, and it was only cited like one time, but it was cited by an entire town. And and it was like so long ago, but it's like because it was cited by the whole town, I mean, it's got to be real, right? I don't know, but it was only seen the one time. So I don't know if history is really that important. I don't know if just the culture shifted, and when it did, they decided that this thing, of course, especially if the Michigan legends are true, if it only comes every 10 years on the 7th year, then I mean, gosh, 10 years is a long time in the 1800s, so
Yeah.
big advances being made then. So, maybe somewhere it shifted, and, I'm not sure entirely. I don't feel like I have enough to go off of to make any type of informed decision on whether or not I think it's real. I don't know, Pat, what do you think?
I think there are several websites that sell silver 9mm bullets, which is fucking awesome.
Did you find
Oh
any
my,
yet? Is that
yes. Oh
tons?
my God. You
Are they
can get
expensive?
silver. They're sold out at a lot of places.
What? They're
Yeah,
sold
you're,
out?
yeah, I'm sure. Well, ammo in general is very hard to get right now.
Oh, that's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
it's like a lot of places won't even sell you range ammo because like there's I don't get into all this shit, but like
Sure.
yeah, it's in general it's kind of hard to get to right now, but I'm sure if I did some digging, which I won't do right now, I could find some place that's still selling them. But yeah, dude, you can buy silver bullets. That's fucking crazy. I
I mean,
should
I'm
never
not
know.
surprised you can buy silver bullets. I'm just more surprised. I wonder if they're going to. I like if we didn't have an ammo shortage going on right now. If we, I guess it's not really a shortage, but if we didn't have that going on right now, would they still be sold out? That's the question. Are there people enough people out there? Is there a high enough demand for silver bullets that they're constantly in that high of demand?
Well, one of the websites is Minuteman Ammunition.
Mhm.
They have something called their Werewolf Defense Line, and it has the different calibers. And just to read you the first line of the the product description: at Minuteman Ammo, we take werewolf defense very seriously.
Wow.
We offer live ammo loaded with 99.9% silver, pure silver projectiles. The solid silver projectiles are made. Blah, 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 blah. All werewolf defense ammo is fully functional live ammo. Silver projectiles stay intact and function similarly to a solid copper projectile. So they're not hollow points. They're basically it's like range ammo, which will fuck you up. And it's silver. They're wow, that's insane.
But they say specifically it's for werewolf hunting.
Yeah, it's werewolf defense line.
Oh my gosh. You guys. Well, I think that Dogman is like the next Mothman. I think it's becoming more popular by the day. Like I said, that group, the North American Dogman Project, they have a whole website. It's NorthAmericanDogmanProject.com. And they, they're making a whole documentary about this dog man. And I've seen that group for a couple of years because, again, I'm very familiar with that area. And I've heard that there's a dog man down there. And I don't know. I used to drive down those roads every single night. I've never seen one.
Yeah, my needle kind of has to go more towards bullshit with this. I mean, trust me, werewolves are probably like my favorite of the Universal monsters.
Yeah, they're
I mean,
very cool. Yeah.
I literally made a werewolf movie. It was one of the first movies I ever made. That was played at Trauma. What's Trauma Dance? 2015 or so.
Oh, really? Your first movie was played at Trauma Dance?
Yeah, actually, more or less. Yeah. Well, it was a short film, but yeah, Space Werewolf.
Space
And,
werewolf.
right. Well, because it's always a full moon in outer space. Have
I
you
might
not seen
actually
that?
have to watch this. Halloween.
Jesus, I
Halloween
can't
will be
believe we're
fun.
9 episodes in and I just said the word fucking space werewolf. That
Yeah,
is insane.
right.
Um, Jesus, yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, so yeah, I'm a big fan of the werewolf mythology, but at the same time, I don't think they're real. Like I think it's the interesting story, but I don't think there's people out there that are changing. And I think that it's probably a biological explanation more than anything. Like you said, the mange or the bears that are losing their hair, stand, something like that. That's more likely.
I think so too. I mean, like I said, biologically, it just doesn't make any sense why they would even exist.
Right.
That just doesn't. If they do exist, it would have to be something else. That we just don't understand. But I don't think that as an actual animal, walking around our woods, I don't buy that. There was a video going around, and this was kind of my first experience, and maybe this is why I'm so jaded about the Dogman. This was like my first real Dogman experience, and it was called maybe the Gimlin footage. And it was, I should have looked this up before this episode. It was just this weird video on YouTube, and it was like this kind of dog-like thing in the woods, and it wasn't the Gimlin footage. I'm thinking of the Patterson Gimlin footage. It starts with maybe the Gable film. That's what it was. The Gable film. And it has this like dog thing that's kind of like pacing back and forth. And then it like charges at the cameraman. And then there's like even extended footage where you see that cameraman later and like quote unquote crime scene footage, and he's like he's like severed in half, and there's like police and stuff, and I mean it looked really believable, until somebody came out and admitted that it was a fake. It was like one of those
Yeah,
early
it's
internet.
copyrighted by Mindstage Productions, so
Right.
it's
It was like one of
definitely.
those early kind of found footage internet deals, kind of an early internet mystery. And it was like, oh, I found this in my attic. And, what is this?
Yeah.
And, but, when it first came out, it took a while for the truth to come out for it. And, I was sold on it. I was like, wow, this is great. What is this? And it was fake. And, it hurt my feelings. So I think
Oh.
it was just the basics of it. I was sad that it was not real and that somebody would make it up. So, I think that that's why again, I have some type of bias, maybe I'm jaded by the dog man. And it's like, that was one of my first experiences with the dog man. And so I don't know. It's really hard to believe in it. But maybe one day we'll have dude on the show and we can, question him and see what he thinks, because he's taken this and he's kind of taken this dogman sighting and has molded his entire career around it. So he's really into it. So he's, maybe he's got other stories, there's not everything's on the internet, surprisingly, believe it or not.
Yeah, I would be interested to find out kind of where he was at and the correlating data. Like what's like the background and like the date, like what were you up to, what was going on in your life?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like is there potentially is there a chance it was there for you? Like, or is it something that you just stumbled across, like literally like a cryptid that would like existed in nature that you stumbled across, you
Right.
know?
Right. And different things. So, I mean, I'm hoping, everybody put your pleas in. I think he's willing to work with us. I just think right now it's Halloween and everybody's reaching for us
Everyone wants to
weirdos.
talk to him. Yeah, I guess.
Right. And so it's, it can be a tough time, but, I would be curious to do it again. And if anybody else has dogman sightings and, if you guys, fuck man, if you guys have any sightings and you would like to come on the show, let us know. We'd be
Sure.
more than happy
Yeah.
to talk to you about, whatever it is that ails you. That's the business. As much as I say, I don't believe in certain things, it doesn't mean that I'm so close-minded that I wouldn't take your story seriously. That's
Right.
one thing that I definitely, I try to believe, and I try to operate on a 1% possibility. If there's a 1% chance it exists, then, it might. So,
Right. Like if you're legitimately schizophrenic, we won't have you on because for your own safe, but for your own protection, because we don't want to humiliate you. But yeah, I mean, if there's if you got a sighting or you have something you want to talk about, we have the capability to have guests on.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't mind it just being the two of us, but I mean, I could add a third or fourth person very easily. And
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I'm always curious to see. And I've gotten, when I was putting it out, and I need to go back to doing it, I was like kind of vetting people in for different situations and just their high strangeness and stuff. And I've got a lot of
yeah,
interesting stuff. Well, that's how I ended up stumbling upon my sky dragons. You know, and I, people will still send me stuff, but I guess I haven't really advertised in a while. Maybe I'll get back to doing that, and that'll help, and we can kind of talk to some other weirdos and make some bigger discoveries. So I don't know. You might see a breakthrough on the show at some point. Who knows? Um, but other than that, you got any other opinions on the dog man?
I started off thinking this was more real than I ended up leaving the show thinking. So you talked me out of it,
Okay,
which
well.
good for you.
All right then, guys. Well, we will see you next Wednesday.